Hey everyone, thanks for joining. We're going to give it about 30 more seconds before we get started as we let everybody else join. All right, well, thank you everyone for coming today to our Lunch and Learn Adaptive Capabilities in Atomic Assessments. I'm Lauren Romano, and joining me is Chris Johnson. He is our Regional Manager of Sales for Atomic Jolt. Today, we are going to show you atomic assessments and how it can be used to personalize learning with adaptive features that respond to student performance in real time. I'll quickly go over our agenda for this 30-minute session. We'll start with a brief overview of Atomic Jolt. Then we'll do a live demo of atomic assessments. Although our tool integrates into all the major LMSs like Brightspace, Blackboard, and Moodle, for today's demo, we'll be using Canvas. During this demo, please feel free to put all of your questions into the chat or in the Q&A, and we'll be sure to answer them all. This session is being recorded, so look out for my follow-up email that I'll send to you after with a link to the recording. If you're interested in a more personalized demo of one of our tools, or if you'd like to set up an opportunity to evaluate atomic assessments, I'll include a link in my calendar for my calendar in the email as well. And in that follow-up email, I'll also announce if you're the winner of our Uber Eats giveaway. Everyone attending today is entered to win, so be sure to check to see the email if you are the lucky winner. But now I'll pass this off to Chris.
Thanks, Lauren. As Lauren mentioned, my name is Chris Johnson, and very much excited to show you the adaptive capabilities in atomic assessments. Looking at the list today, I see some names that I know, so appreciate all of you for attending. And for those who are unfamiliar with Atomic Jolt and what we do, I'd like to just give you a lay of the land, tell you a little bit about us, and then we'll get to the meat of our demonstration here. We have been in the education market, especially our co-founders, for 20 years now. And the goal throughout this time is really just to ensure that your LMS works for you. Typically, an LMS does most of what you want it to do, but there's always ways that it can be improved. There's ways to make teaching and learning more engaging or effective or efficient. And that's really what we as an organization focus on. And throughout this time, we've created multiple solutions that work within all major higher education LMSs. And so as Lauren mentioned, today we're going to focus mostly on Canvas, but these capabilities work regardless of the LMS you use. So if you're a Moodle school, these features will work, as well as a Brightspace school. These will work for you as well. So with that, again, we're going to focus on atomic assessments. And the idea of this Lunch and Learn is to show you how you can create these adaptive learning experiences that ensure that the students get what they need based on their performance. And there's a few features that show these capabilities. What I plan on showing you today is, first, I'd like to show you how you can create an in-question support tool. So imagine your student is struggling on a core principle. How do we ensure that they get a little bit of help to find the right answer, as all of the next questions are going to build upon understanding that core concept. And then for those students who already understand that concept well, how do we not slow them down? And in this case, the in-question support tool that I'm going to show you will really ensure that we scaffold the learning for those students who need a little bit more help to answer those core concepts or core questions. Followed by that, I'd like to show you adaptive assessments where, depending on the student's performance, it takes them down these various learning paths. For those students who are performing well, let's give them a more advanced path. And for the students who need a little bit of help, let's create a remediation path to ensure that they also can get to that advanced path. And then, in my experience, whenever you create these various different adaptive approaches, inevitably the reporting gets tough to know where students are within their learning journey, how they're performing. So I'll show you the adaptive reporting that we've recently released within Atomic Assessments. along with some new metrics that are available in our core reporting capabilities. And then whenever you talk about adaptive or personalized, individualized learning, uh, item pooling and randomization is at the core of that to ensure that you maintain that academic integrity. But also, if they are given the opportunity to take an assessment multiple times, you want to ensure that they're finding the right, they have the right information and not just memorize the right answers. So with that, let's hop right in. And again, we're going to start with this first in-question support capability. And I'd like to show you what this looks like from a student's perspective. So if you're new to atomic assessments, which I know that most of you have a baseline understanding, one of my favorite capabilities is the fact that atomic assessments can be embedded right within your learning content. So if I'm in Canvas, Brightspace, Moodle, it doesn't matter. I can provide all the information a student might need in a learning page and then embed a question wherever I want within the content editor. And this is another way that you can differentiate learning, is to utilize the LMS's capability. Meaning if I wanted to assign this learning page to only one student, I could do so. And therefore this assessment's only assigned to that one student. But that's beside the point. I wanted to walk you through this in support tool. So in this case, let's disregard that the answer is right in front of us here. And let's pretend that the student isn't able to find the right answer. In this case, we want the student to be able to ensure, I want to be able to ensure that the student knows how to calculate free fall. And so I want to create this custom help tool that allows them to find the answer. So when they click this help me solve this item, it now is going to scaffold their learning, where as a faculty member, I've designed a step-by-step process to help them inevitably get this answer correct. So in this case, I'm just going to, answer this. Let's make sure I got it right. And as I fill this out, I can just continuously check my answer, make sure I'm on the right path. And then once I've gone through the various different steps, well, now I've learned how to figure out the answer to this question. And I can try again and ensure that I get this answer correct this time. So just to, in case you missed it, the benefit here is students who automatically get this question correct, they don't necessarily need to click this button to say, help me solve this. They can just move on to the various other questions. And for students who are unable to get this answer correct, then we want to ensure that we remediate that, we provide them some help, and that they are given the support they need to get the right answer. Inevitably, whenever you create an adaptive capability, it's going to take a bit of time. And so I don't want to sugarcoat it. Yes, you would have to create, essentially to ensure that students are answering this one question correctly. In this example, we created 3 follow-up questions to get them to the right answer. And so let's take a look at what that process looks like. So I'm going to leave this student view, and here we're going to build an in support question so you can understand that process. And to start, I want to ask just a close drag and drop question. So from here, let's select the close with drag and drop. And I'm noticing that a lot of those in the attendee list are from nursing programs. So let me throw in a quick nursing question. And I know that in the context of a physics assessment may not make a lot of sense, but I want to mix it up a little bit. So in this case, we're going to ask the students a question about, calculating the fluid intake and output of a patient. I'm going to just quickly copy and paste this stem, and we're going to quickly copy and paste the body here, and then we'll make sure that we finalize this question here. So in this question, we're asking, giving them some various amount of fluid intake and outputs, and we're going to ask the students to calculate the intake, output, and the fluid balance. So I want them to put their response here, here, and here. Then, of course, I need to be able to ensure that I provide enough right answers and distractors. So let me quickly do that. Now, in nursing, this would be a very important subject to fully understand. And so this, again, is a perfect example of we want to ensure that if students get it wrong, we want to walk them through how they can come up with these answers. So let me quickly just put the correct answers. And from here, I'm going to shuffle my options. Again, if ever students take this multiple times, each time it's going to shuffle these around. I'm going to give them the ability to check their answer, and this will allow them to know if they need to get some help on this question or not. I could provide feedback on right answers and wrong answers, but in this case, we'll, for the sake of simplicity, avoid all those. And from here, what I'm going to do is, because I'm going to provide that, step-by-step instructions, I'm going to turn this into a single part question into a multi-part question. And the first step that I want to provide my students is that help icon that allows them to say, help me solve this. To do that within Atomic Assessments, that's currently a feature called our custom help block. So I'm going to select that here. Again, I can choose whether each of these questions are revealed one at a time, which in this case makes the most sense. I can provide feedback and hints, but in this case, we just want to keep this simple. We're going to create a help block. And then from anything that I create below this is going to feed them this help one by one. So the first question first concept I want to ensure that my students understand is, they need to convert these cups into milliliters. So let's ensure that my students understand that how many milliliters are in a cup. And to do that, I'm just going to make a simple multiple choice question. And let's do this one. And let me just put in some numbers here. Perfect. Write the right answer. We're going to shuffle this around, and we're going to give them the ability to check their answer. So now, the first step in this, if they need some additional help, we're going to walk them through it. How many milliliters are in a cup? All right, now we need to get them to total the cups of juice and the cups of water. So I can add an additional question here. In this case, maybe I'll make it a short text. And I'm going to ask, what is the total number of milliliters in 2 cups of water and 1 cup of juice? I'd probably spend a little bit more time making this beautiful, but we got 30 minutes, so I'm trying to be efficient here. So in this case, the answer would be 720. And again, I'm going to give them the ability to check their answer so that they can continue through this multi-part question. Now at this point, now they understand how many milliliters are in a cup, how to calculate a number of cups. I can continuously walk them through deducting the output from the intake. But at this point, it feels like they have the tools they need. So whenever you are creating that multi-part question, the idea here is that you provide not only the one question example, but you also give them the ability to check their answer and ask for them to help me solve this so they can do this one at a time. All right, I want to pause there. Any questions so far on this process?
We did have one question. Looks like Nick was able to answer it, but it was about can these in-page assignments be used for formative assessment grading in the grade book? Like basically,
Awesome.
are they connected?
Yeah, and that's one big advantage of other tools. A lot of times when you embed these assessments right within your learning content, they can only be a formative, ungraded learning object. But with atomic assessments, if you choose for this to be graded, it actually creates an assignment within the LMS, iframes it right within the learning content to ensure that it has a gradebook entry. And of course, how the students perform on this automatically gets sent to the gradebook. Okay. So we've now taken a look at the ability to create that in-item adaptive approach. If a student is struggling on a question, we have our custom help block that gives them that in-question support to be able to solve it step by step until they find the right answer here. Now I'd like to show you how you can create an entire assessment that adapts based on the student's performance. And again, similar to what we had to do with the in-item, this is requiring that, for every assessment you create, you have to create these various different learning paths. And so it is going to require you to, create more assessments than just one. And with atomic assessments, we can, simplify that process for you. So to kind of stay in line with that nursing example, if the first assessment that a student's taking is this NCLEX example, I need to then, of course, create various different paths, a remediation path and an advanced path. And so I'm going to have to create multiple different assessments. What I would recommend doing is to duplicate these and say, all right, this one is the NCLEX, remediation path assessment. And then we're going to do the same for the advanced option. So again, I'm going to take this NCLEX prep exam and we're going to duplicate it and call it the NCLEX advanced. Now, the time consuming part, of course, is to go into each of these assessments and to change each of these questions to make them either a remediation appropriate question or an advanced. But at least you're not having to start from scratch. It's already going to bring in those, in this case, 10 questions for you, and then you can go in and use those templates to say, all right, let me make these questions a little simpler or more simple, and then let's make these ones a little bit more advanced and challenging since it's on the advanced path. And yeah, again, you would just go in and edit these questions, adapt the content, make them a little bit more challenging since this is the advanced path, and so on. Once you've created the various different assessments that you want to create within your adaptive approach, the way that you can create an adaptive assessment in atomic assessments is to select this drop-down, and you can create a new adaptive assessment. So in this one, we're going to create the NCLEX placement adaptive exam. Now, we can choose the reporting group, if this is a graded item or not, how many points are associated with this. All of these are core functionalities of atomic assessments. Again, if I wanted to individualize my assessment, I can assign this only to specific students. For my question settings, I can give students the ability to show check answers or turn this off. And I can also pool and randomize my questions as well. So in this case, I can choose how many questions of the total number of questions to pull in. All right. From here, this is where we start creating the various different learning paths. And in our tool, the learning path is called a section. So let's call this first section our initial placement section. I can choose custom grading scales, different weights of the assessments in each of these sections. In this case, I'm going to keep it pretty simple, and we're just going to use whatever points are associated within each assessment. And then if they do well, we want to create an advanced one, and if they are not doing well, we want to create a remediation path. I'm going to just continue to make these sections, and then let's create an advanced one, or advanced section. All right, so with this initial placement, we're going to add what assessment belongs to start all students out. So from here, we're going to take that NCLEX exam, and we're just going to use the regular NCLEX example. In this case, there's 11 questions. I'm only going to have them do 5, randomize the questions so each student has a slightly different experience. And if they score well, if they score greater than, let's say, 75%, I want them to then go to this advanced path. Otherwise, let's give them a little bit of help and put them in that remediation placement exam. Now, as it stands, both of these paths are blank, so we need to add content to each of these exams. And so here, I'm going to, again, create this remediation path. I've edited these questions so they're a little bit more simplistic. I'm going to have them do all questions, and if they score greater than 70, then they can go to the advanced path. Otherwise, I'm going to have them go back, or maybe just go and end it. Whatever I would like to do, I can create multiple different logics, add multiple different assessments within each learning section. I can, again, weight these differently. So it's all available to you to ensure that you're getting the student experience that you want. And then we're going to get the advanced in here as well. And then, of course, I want them to end at the end once they've completed this assessment. Or I could, again, add some more branching logic to say if they don't score, if they score less than 60, let's send them right through the loop again, and they have to go back to that initial placement. So all of these are possible with an atomic assessment. I'm going to save that, publish this for the student, and now it's ready for them to go. Let's take a look now that we've created this 3 different path assessment, what the reporting capabilities look like. But before I do that, let me pause. Are there any questions that I have not yet addressed, Lauren?
No, I don't see any other questions, but again, if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in. Oh, actually, we just got one in. John is saying he teaches English composition and they don't use quizzes or exams. All assignments and activities are completed by writing. How does Atomic support assessment of writing?
Yeah, so with the adaptive approach, there's going to be a delay there, right? Because if you have an essay as a question type, then it requires faculty to intervene before it can send those various different students down their learning paths. And so we do have a lot of question types that support English instructors, long essay questions, written and recorded. If you wanted to have them write an essay, record an audio, a book report, we have a lot of questions that support that. But of course, there's no right or wrong answer. And so there is that delay from the point in which they submit the exam to the point that the faculty grade the exam, they'll kind of be stuck in limbo until that's completed.
And then are these items presented based on ongoing analysis of item difficulty?
So each item can be tagged based on the item difficulty, and I'll show you that within our reporting. And then there's also some metrics that show you whether or not the assessment is truly measuring what you expect it to. So we'll take a look at the reporting in just a moment.
And then Chris, are you able to have other options in the path beside next and or a different question set? For instance, a link to a how-to video or a scheduling link so the student has to set up a meeting with the instructor.
So everything does have to go into an atomic exam, but an exam doesn't necessarily need to carry any questions. So after they complete an exam, if you wanted to provide a link to a video, then you can use our features capability where you'll notice that these are not questions, but if you want to create a passage of just more information for the students to review, or a video player that shows them how to, or it explains that concept, you certainly could. And then after they've completed it, then it will automatically go to the next.
And then we have another question, Chris, about if a student needs additional testing time, can you change individual students' time to complete the assessment?
Yes, yeah. So you can moderate and differentiate different learning timing, the amount of number of attempts, all live within our tool.
All right, I think that's all the questions for right now.
Awesome. All right. So with that, let's take a look at the various different reports that we have for adaptive assessments. And I'm noticing that we're running low on time, so I'll quickly breeze through this. Beyond the adaptive section, which is new with atomic assessments, I also wanted to point out that we have additional statistics on each student's performance that are available even if you don't choose to use the adaptive capability. Before we had information like the discrimination, the median, and the standard deviation, but we've recently added the upper and lower 27%, so you can see of the top performers, what percentage answered correct? What percentage answered correct in the bottom 27% of student performance? Again, those ones that we already had are still there, but we've also added point by serial, the p-value of the question types, and then median attempts of each response as well. So we're giving you more data to ensure that you're able to create assessments that are measuring exactly what you want them to. And when you do create the adaptive assessment, this added tab appears for you, where you can see how each student is performing within that adaptive approach. So in this case, Annie here took 3 different assessments within this path. Her total score was 85.7%. If you tag each questions based on learning outcomes, these ones are a little bit generic. You'll notice that I've just tagged the math, but you can see how they're performing on their highest learning outcome and lowest learning outcome and what those learning outcomes are. If you allow students to take assessments multiple times, you can see each of those performances here and toggle through them. But you can also see the longitudinal data of how they performed over time. And if you do have multiple different assessments within a learning path, you can see exactly how they're performing on each of those. If I click on this learning area detail, I can also see of the learning outcomes that were tagged. Again, shamefully so, I only tagged these questions math, but I can see in the core math competency, they scored 80%. They then went through a targeted review, scored 100%, and that allowed them to get 85% on the college readiness certification exam, which was the capstone of that assessment. All right, so that is the reporting capabilities. There's obviously a lot more to show on the adaptive capabilities, on the reporting functionalities, since we've made a lot of improvements there. If you're interested in a more in-depth demonstration of anything I've shown today, Lauren has placed a link to her calendar directly into the Zoom chat. Feel free to book some time directly or reach out to us, and we're happy to show you a more tailored, personalized demonstration. But I hope I was able to show you how you can use some of the adaptive capabilities in atomic assessments to give your students the best chance at improving their learning outcomes and how you can differentiate their learning in the pursuit of those learning outcomes. Again, if you do have any questions, I'm happy to hang on and answer those, but I do appreciate your time, and you all have a wonderful day.
Thank you, everyone.